I've sailed across calm darker than the night, and waves tested me. But I will not turn back. The one who carries the courage of...
I've faced monsters from the depths and powers I barely understand. Maui, demigod of the little fish hook. And I've never backed...
Every spark of magic, the world itself could be lost. My doubts, and ready fist mine. It belongs to everyone in the ocean.
I've always been this is bigger than me. Bigger than any tale ever tests us.
Welcome to Miss Cinema Film. Thios Disney is bringing Moana back in live action, and the ocean is calling once again. Moana, 2026, reimagines the beloved story with real actors, epic visuals, and surprising new facts you need to know. In this video, I'll review the film and reveal exciting behind-the-scenes details, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Miss Cinema Film. Moana is an upcoming American musical adventure film and a live-action adaptation of Disney's popular 2016 animated movie Moana. This film is the third installment in the Moana franchise and brings the beloved story back in a new form, using real actors instead of animation while keeping the heart of the original tale alive. The movie is directed by Thomas Gale, who is known for his strong storytelling style, and the screenplay is written by Jared Bush and Dana Ledoux Miller, the same writers who helped shape the animated films. The production team includes Dwayne Johnson, Hiram Garcia, Danny Garcia, Beau Flynn, and acclaimed songwriter Lin-Manuel Miranda, all of whom are closely connected to the Moana universe. Kathryn Lagaya stars as Moana in her film debut, stepping into the role of the brave ocean-loving heroine, while Dwayne Johnson returns to play the demigod Maui, reprising the role he made famous in the animated movies. The idea for a live-action version of Moana was officially revealed by Dwayne Johnson in April 2023, surprising and exciting fans around the world. The announcement confirmed Disney's plan to retell Moana's journey in a more realistic and visually immersive way. In May 2023, Thomas Gale was brought on as the director, setting the creative direction for the film. Nearly a year later, in June 2024, Disney announced Kathryn Lagaya as the new Moana, along with key members of the supporting cast. This casting choice introduced a fresh face to the franchise while still honoring the cultural roots of the story. Principal photography for the film took place between July and November 2024, with filming locations in both Atlanta and Hawaii. These locations were chosen to combine advanced studio work with authentic island environments, helping to capture the natural beauty and spirit of the Pacific. The live-action Moana is scheduled to be released in theaters across the United States by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures on July 10, 2026. The film is expected to present Moana's journey with grand visuals, emotional performances, and powerful music, while respecting Polynesian culture and traditions. By blending the magic of the original animated film with live-action storytelling, Disney aims to introduce Moana's story to a new generation of viewers while giving longtime fans a fresh and exciting way to experience the adventure once again. Prompted by a powerful and ancient call from the ocean itself, Moana feels drawn toward a destiny she does not yet fully understand. For the first time in her life, she makes the brave decision to leave her home island of Maui, a place protected for generations by a barrier reef that her people have been taught never to cross. Stepping beyond this boundary means leaving behind her family, her responsibilities, and the safety of everything familiar, but Moana chooses to follow the ocean's guidance, trusting that it has chosen her for a reason. As she sails into the vast and unpredictable open sea, Moana's journey quickly becomes one of survival, discovery, and personal growth. She is soon joined by Maui, the larger-than-life demigod known for his strength, shape-shifting abilities, and legendary deeds. Although Maui is confident and boastful, and Moana is inexperienced but determined, the two must learn to work together despite their differences. Along the way, they face violent storms, dangerous monsters, and moments of doubt that test their courage and resolve. Each challenge forces Moana to grow into her role as a leader and a wayfinder, teaching her to trust her instincts and the signs of the ocean. The purpose of their voyage goes far beyond adventure. Moana's island is slowly dying, and her people's future is at risk as crops fail and fish disappear. By answering the ocean's call, Moana hopes to restore balance to nature and bring life back to her community. Through persistence, sacrifice, and belief in herself, Moana's journey becomes a powerful story of responsibility, heritage, and identity. Her voyage alongside Maui not only aims to heal her island but also helps her discover who she truly is and what she is meant to become. The casting process for the 2026 live-action adaptation of Moana began with a high-profile announcement that set the tone for the project's emphasis on cultural authenticity and representation. Dwayne Johnson, who originally voiced the demigod Maui in the 2016 animated film, was the first actor confirmed for the remake. This decision was revealed by Johnson himself on April 3, 2023, through a video posted on his official YouTube channel, where he expressed his personal connection to the story, drawing from his own Polynesian heritage. Johnson's involvement was not just as an actor but also as a producer through his 7 Bucks Productions, which partnered with Disney to bring the live-action version to life. His reprise of Maui was seen as a natural fit, given his charismatic performance in the original, which blended humor, strength, and vulnerability. Critics and fans alike noted how Johnson's larger-than-life persona mirrored the mythical demigod, and his physical presence honed from years in professional wrestling and action films promised to translate the character's animated grandeur into a live-action spectacle. This early casting choice underscored Disney's strategy to leverage star power while maintaining continuity with the animated franchise. Following the initial announcement, the casting process faced delays due to external industry factors. Production was slated to begin ramping up in late 2023, but the SAG-AFTRA strike, which lasted from July to November 2023, halted auditions and negotiations. This suspension allowed the creative team, including director Thomas Kail, known for his work on Hamilton, to refine their vision for the film. Kail emphasized in interviews that the casting would prioritize actors of Pacific Islander descent to honor the cultural roots of the story, which draws inspiration from Polynesian mythology and voyaging traditions. This approach was a deliberate effort to avoid the pitfalls of previous Disney live-action remakes, where cultural representation had sometimes been criticized. By February 2024, Johnson teased in a public statement that the lead role of Moana had been cast, but he withheld the actress's identity to build anticipation. This cryptic update fueled speculation online, with fans debating potential candidates who could embody the spirited young voyager. The breakthrough came on June 12, 2024, when Disney officially unveiled Kathryn Lagaaya as the new Moana. At just 17 years old, Lagaaya, a newcomer from Sydney, Australia, marked her major film debut with this role. Her selection was celebrated for its cultural alignment. Lagaaya is of Samoan heritage, with her grandfather hailing from Pehle, Palauai, in Savaii, Samoa, and her grandmother from Lilamigatu'i on Palu, Samoa. This background resonated deeply with the character's Polynesian origins, allowing Lagaaya to bring personal authenticity to the part. In her first public statement about the casting, Lagaaya expressed profound excitement. "I'm really excited to embrace this character because Moana is one of my favorites. I'm honored to have an opportunity to celebrate Samoa and all Pacific Island peoples, and to represent young girls who look like me." Her words highlighted the role's significance beyond entertainment, positioning it as a beacon for representation in Hollywood. Lagaaya's family ties to the industry also added an intriguing layer. She is the daughter of actor Jay Lagaaya, known for roles in Star Wars and Australian television, and Sandra Jane Lagaaya. While her father's experience likely provided guidance, Lagaaya's casting was attributed to her natural talent and screen presence, discovered through a rigorous audition process that spanned months. Lagaaya's journey to landing the role involved multiple rounds of auditions, where she demonstrated her singing ability as crucial for Moana's musical numbers and her ability to convey the character's determination and curiosity. Director Kail praised her during the announcement, noting that meeting Lagaaya through the casting process was a highlight. He described her as embodying the spirit of Moana, with a blend of youthful energy and emotional depth. This choice was also influenced by Ollie Kravlo, the original voice of Moana, who transitioned to an executive producer role for the live-action film. Kravlo, who opted not to reprise the role to allow a new generation to shine, endorsed gaya publicly, stating in interviews that accurate representation was vital. "I believe it is absolutely vital that casting accurately represents the characters and stories we want to tell," Kravlo said, reflecting on her own experience as a Hawaiian actress. Gaya's casting sparked discussions on social media about the importance of age-appropriate and culturally sensitive selections, contrasting with controversies in other Disney remakes like Snow White. Alongside Gaya, the June 2024 announcement introduced several key supporting cast members, starting with John Tua as Chief Tua. Moana's father, Tua, born on June 11, 1975, in Auckland, New Zealand, brings a wealth of experience from his Tongan descent and extensive career in film and television. Growing up in Manurua, he trained at Unitec's School of Performing and Screen Arts, honing skills that led to breakout roles in the Power Rangers franchise. He portrayed Anubis Doggy Kruger in Power Rangers SBT 2005, and Agar in Power Rangers Mystic Force 2006, showcasing his ability to handle authoritative, heroic figures qualities that align perfectly with Chief Tua's protective yet traditional demeanor. Tua's film credits include high-profile blockbusters like Battleship, 2012, as Chief Petty Officer Walter Beast Lynch, The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, 2014, as Bolg, Solo, A Star Wars Story, 2018, as Ka Urso, and The Legend of Baron Toa, 2020, in the title role. His collaborations with Dwayne Johnson added a layer of familiarity to the casting. They previously worked together in Hobbs Shaw, 2019, where Tua played Cal Hobbs, and in the TV series Young Rock, 2021-2023, portraying Afeno-Ai. This marks their third joint project, fostering on-set chemistry that could enhance the father-daughter dynamic in Moana. Tua's personal life, including his marriage to La since 2002 and fatherhood to 4 children, including twins, mirrors the family-oriented themes of the film, making his portrayal of Chief Tua particularly resonant. The role of Sina, Moana's mother, went to Frankie Adams, a Samoan New Zealand actress whose casting further emphasized the film's commitment to Pacific Islander talent. Born on January 3, 1994, on the island of Savaii in Samoa, Adams is the eldest of 3 daughters and attended Auckland Girls Grammar School. Standing at 180 centimeters, 5 feet 11 in, her statuesque presence suits Sina's nurturing yet strong-willed character. Adams burst onto the scene at age 16 with her role as Eula Levi in the long-running New Zealand soap opera Shortland Street, 2010-2015, appearing in 278 episodes and gaining recognition for her dramatic range. She transitioned to international projects, notably as Roberta Bobby Draper in the science fiction series The Expanse, 2017-2022, where she portrayed a tough Marine sergeant across seasons 2 through 6. Her film work includes 1000 Tropes, 2017, as Eliza, Mortal Engines, 2018, as Yasmina Rashid, Next Goal Wins, 2023, as Frangipani, and the upcoming The Wrecking Crew, 2026, as Nani. Adams also appeared in TV miniseries like The Panthers, 2021, as Tessa and the Lost Flowers of Alice Hart, 2023, as Candy Blue, and voiced Milani 50/50 Tupuola in Call of Duty, Black Ops 7, 2025. Her Samoan heritage and experience in portraying resilient women made her an ideal choice for Sina, who supports Moana's ambitions while grounding her in family values. Adams' partner, Nick Crisp, since 2022, has been supportive of her career, and her casting in Moana was announced as part of the ensemble, with Kale highlighting her warmth and strength during auditions. Rounding out the family unit is Rena Owen as Grumatella, Moana's wise and eccentric grandmother. Owen, born Maria Macarena Owen on July 22, 1962, in the Bay of Islands, New Zealand, is of Welsh, English, Irish, and Ma. Diarisa Sori descent, one of 9 children raised in the rural town of Moana. She trained as a nurse at Auckland Hospital before pursuing acting, studying at the Actors Institute in London in the mid-1980s. Owen's theatre background is extensive, including work with the Royal Shakespeare Company, Elephant Theatre, and Takirua Theatre, where she wrote, directed, and starred in productions like Te Awa Iduri, 1991, and Daddy's Girl. Her breakthrough film role was Beth Heck in Once Were Warriors, 1994, a performance hailed as iconic for its raw emotional power, which she reprised in What Becomes of the Broken-Hearted, 1999. Owen's Hollywood credits include Tonwi in Star Wars, Episode 2A Attack of the Clones, 2002, and Episode 3A Revenge of the Sith, 2005, plus voice work in related media. Other notable roles encompass Rix in Dance Me to My Song, 1998, Macy Fields in Medevac, 1996 a 1998, Kitty Montebello in The Straits, 2012, Helen Hawkins in Siren, 2018 a 2020, Hevina in The Orville, 2017 a 2022, and Grace Cochran in The Gloaming, 2020. Films like AI, Artificial Intelligence, 2001, The Last Witch Hunter, 2015, and TV appearances in Longmire, 2014 a 2015, showcase her versatility. Owen's Amadiarasasauri roots and experience with spiritual, guiding characters make her perfect for Grumatella, who inspires Mona's journey. Kale commended Owen's depth, noting her ability to infuse the role with mysticism and warmth. Beyond the human cast, the film's animal elements received attention in casting updates. In August 2025, it was confirmed that Alan Tudyk, who voiced the dim-witted rooster Hai in the animated films, would not reprise the role. Instead, an undisclosed actress was selected to provide the voice, a decision aimed at refreshing the character while maintaining its comedic essence. This change sparked curiosity among fans, with speculation about who might bring new vocal quirks to Hai. The choice reflects Disney's broader approach to the remake, honoring the original while introducing fresh interpretations. The overall casting decisions for Moana 2026 have been praised for their cultural significance, particularly in prioritizing Pacific Islander actors. This ensemble represents a milestone in Hollywood representation, addressing past criticisms of whitewashing or inadequate cultural consultation in films inspired by non-Western stories. Danilo Du Miller, co-writer of the screenplay, discussed in interviews the impact of such casting, emphasizing how it authentically captures Polynesian voyaging heritage and empowers young audiences. The process involved consultations with cultural advisors to ensure respect for Samoan, Tongan, Madagascar, and border Pacific traditions. Johnson's Hawaiian Samoan background, combined with the cast's diverse heritages, creates a tapestry that celebrates the region's diversity. Public reactions, including on platforms like TikTok and Reddit, have highlighted this as a positive contrast to other remakes, with comments noting Disney's sudden care for race-appropriate casting. Filming locations in Hawaii and New Zealand further tied the cast to the story's roots, allowing actors like Tu and Adams to draw from familiar environments. Interviews with the cast reveal a shared sense of responsibility. Laga AI spoke of representing young girls who look like me, while Owen reflected on the role's spiritual parallels to her own life experiences. Johnson's enthusiasm was evident in promotional materials, where he described the project as a love letter to his culture. As production wrapped, the casting choices continued to generate buzz, with side-by-side comparisons of the live-action actors to their animated counterparts circulating online, praising the visual and cultural fidelity. Expanding on each actor's preparation, Laga AI underwent intensive training in sailing and Polynesian dance to embody Moana's adventurous spirit. Her debut role required balancing school with filming, a challenge she met with determination echoed in the character's arc. 2. Drawing from his Power Rangers days, focused on physicality for Chief 2 is chiefly presence, incorporating Tongan customs into his performance. Adams, fresh from sci-fi action in The Expanse, brought emotional nuance to Sina, exploring motherhood themes informed by her own family background. Owen's theater roots helped her layer Grumatella with folklore-inspired storytelling, consulting mscinemafilmreviews elders for authenticity. The casting also influenced the film's narrative tweaks, with writers Bush and Miller incorporating cast input to deepen cultural elements. For instance, Owen's suggestions added depth to Tala's ocean connection, while Johnson's improvisational style promised new Maui moments. This collaborative approach underscores how casting extended beyond selection to shaping the story. In terms of industry impact, Moana's casting sets a precedent for future Disney projects, proving that culturally specific ensembles can drive commercial success. The announcements boosted anticipation, with the teaser trailer in November 2025 showcasing the cast's chemistry and visual effects that bring Polynesian motifs to life. Fans appreciated the representation, with Pacific Islander communities voicing support for the film's role in preserving and promoting their heritage. Delving deeper into backgrounds, Laga'ai's Samoan lineage connects directly to Moana's themes of ancestry and exploration. Her grandfather's village ties evoke the voyaging legends central to the plot. Similarly, Tu'i's Tongan roots align with the film's pan-Polynesian influences, his family life mirroring Tu'i's protective instincts. Adam's Savai'i birth adds authenticity to Sina's Islander resilience, while Owen's Mscinemafilmreviews heritage enriches Tala's mystical elements, blending traditions seamlessly. Casting rumors, such as potential cameos from original voice actors, were debunked, focusing attention on the new ensemble. The process's transparency, via Disney's official channels, built trust, contrasting opaque selections in other films. Ultimately, the casting for Moana 2026 reflects a thoughtful blend of star power, newcomer talent, and cultural reverence, promising a remake that honors its source while forging new paths. Moana 2026 film, production, music, release, and reception. Production development and pre-production. The journey toward a live-action adaptation of Moana began formally in April 2023, marking an unusually swift turnaround for Disney's live-action remake strategy. The announcement came during Disney's annual shareholder meeting, delivered jointly by Disney CEO Bob Iger and Dwayne Johnson through Johnson's official YouTube channel. This announcement represented a significant departure from Disney's typical timeline for live-action adaptations, as the original animated film had been released merely 7 years earlier in 2016. Traditionally, Disney had focused on reimagining films from its classic library spanning decades, making Moana one of the most recent animated properties to receive this treatment. The decision to fast-track the live-action remake was influenced by several strategic factors. Sean Bailey, who served as Disney Live Action's president of production at the time of announcement, acknowledged that while the relatively brief gap between the animated original and the live-action adaptation might seem unusual, the timing aligned with Disney's celebration of its 100th anniversary. This milestone provided Disney with an opportune moment to revisit one of its most successful recent animated properties. Additionally, Moana had demonstrated remarkable staying power in the streaming landscape, consistently ranking among the most watched films on Disney Plus and becoming a cultural phenomenon that extended well beyond its initial theatrical release. The production infrastructure for the live-action Moana was established through a collaborative partnership between multiple production entities. Dwayne Johnson took on dual roles as both the film's star, reprising his voice role as the demigod Maui in live-action form, and as a producer through his production company 7 Bucks Productions. Johnson's production partners included his ex-wife Dani Garcia and her brother Hiram Garcia, both of whom brought their 7 Bucks Productions expertise to the project. Beau Flynn joined the production team through Flynn Picture Co., adding another layer of Hollywood production experience. In a particularly meaningful gesture that honored the original film's legacy, Ali Kravlo, who had voiced Moana in the 2016 animated feature, was brought on board as an executive producer. Though she would not reprise her role on screen, her involvement ensured continuity and cultural authenticity. For Johnson, the project carried profound personal significance that extended far beyond professional considerations. In his announcement statement, he articulated the deep cultural connection he felt to the material, declaring that the story represented his culture and embodied the grace and warrior strength of his people. Johnson noted that he wore this culture proudly on his skin and in his soul, referring to his traditional Samoan tattoos and heritage. The opportunity to reunite with the character of Maui held special meaning as it was inspired by the mana and spirit of his late grandfather, High Chief Peter Maivia, a legendary figure in both Samoan culture and professional wrestling history. Johnson emphasized that music and dance stood at the core of Polynesian identity, making them the ideal realm through which to honor the story of his people, their passion, and their purpose. The selection of Thomas Gale as director represented a strategic choice that prioritized musical storytelling expertise. The announcement of Gale's involvement came on May 31, 2023, approximately 2 months after the initial project reveal. Gale brought impressive credentials from the world of live musical theater and televised musical productions. He had earned widespread acclaim for directing the original Broadway production of Hamilton, which revolutionized musical theater and became a cultural phenomenon in its own right. His work extended to directing the filmed version of Hamilton that premiered on Disney Plus in 2020, demonstrating his ability to translate stage productions to screen. Additionally, Gale had helmed Grease Live, NBC's successful live television musical event, and had directed the acclaimed limited series We Were the Lucky Ones for Hulu. This would mark Gale's narrative feature directorial debut, positioning him to bring his unique perspective on musical storytelling to Disney's live-action adaptation. The casting process for the titular role of Moana became a significant undertaking that reflected Disney's commitment to authentic Pacific Islander representation. Initial plans anticipated that casting would begin later in 2023, but these timelines were significantly disrupted by external industry factors. The 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike, which brought much of Hollywood production to a standstill, forced the suspension of casting activities. Casting efforts could not resume until November 8, 2023, following the strike's resolution. This delay pushed back the entire production timeline and necessitated adjustments to the filming schedule. In February 2024, Johnson revealed in public statements that an actress had been cast in the titular role, but Disney maintained strict secrecy around the identity of their chosen Moana. This deliberate strategy built anticipation and allowed Disney to control the narrative around the casting announcement. The reveal finally came in June 2024, when Disney announced that Katherine Lagaya, an 18-year-old from Sydney, Australia, had been selected to play Moana. The choice represented the culmination of what was reportedly a global open casting call designed to find the perfect actress to embody the character. Lagaya's casting was particularly meaningful from a cultural authenticity standpoint. The actress brought legitimate Samoan heritage to the role, with her grandfather hailing from Pehle, Palauai, in Savaii, and her grandmother from Liulamigatu'i on the main island of Apalua in Samoa. In her statement following the casting announcement, Lagaya expressed genuine excitement about embracing the character, noting that Moana had long been one of her favorite characters. She articulated her honor at having the opportunity to celebrate Samoa and all Pacific Island peoples through this role, viewing it as a chance to represent young girls who looked like her. This would mark Lagaya's feature film debut, placing enormous responsibility on a young actress who had limited prior professional experience. The supporting cast announcement accompanied Lagaya's reveal, rounding out Moana's family and community on Maui. John Tue, an Auckland, New Zealand native, was cast as Chief Tue, Moana's no-nonsense father who struggles with his daughter's desire to voyage beyond the reef. Tue brought prior experience working with Johnson, having appeared alongside him in Hobbs Shaw, 2019, and in the television series Young Rock, 2021 to 2023, marking their third collaboration. Frankie Adams, a Samoan New Zealand actress, took on the role of Sina, Moana's playful yet strong-willed mother who provides emotional support for her daughter's journey. Rena Owen, hailing from Bay of Islands, New Zealand, was cast as Grimatella, Moana's revered grandmother whose spirit guides her throughout her voyage. These casting choices ensured that the core family unit would be portrayed by actors with genuine connections to Pacific Islander communities and cultures. The screenplay duties were assigned to Jared Bush and Dana Ledoux Miller, a pairing that balanced familiarity with fresh perspective. Bush had written the screenplay for the original 2016 animated Moana, giving him deep knowledge of the characters, themes, and narrative structure that had resonated with audiences worldwide. His involvement provided crucial continuity between the animated and live-action versions. Miller brought a different but equally valuable set of credentials to the project. As a Samoan writer, she offered authentic cultural insight and perspective. Her previous work included creating Netflix's Thai Cave Rescue, and she had co-founded the non-profit organization Pacifica Entertainment Advancement Comedy, PEAC, demonstrating her commitment to advancing Pacific Islander representation in entertainment. The Bush-Miller partnership aimed to honor the original story while potentially incorporating deeper cultural elements and perspectives that could enhance the live-action interpretation. An intriguing footnote in the casting process emerged in August 2025, when it was announced that Alan Tudyk would not reprise his role as Hain, the comedically dim-witted rooster who serves as comic relief throughout Moana's journey. In the animated films, Tudyk had provided vocal sounds for the character, but for the live-action adaptation, the decision was made to have an undisclosed actress provide voice work for Hain instead. This change, while seemingly minor, reflected the production's approach to differentiating the live-action version from its animated predecessor while maintaining the character's presence in the story. Filming principal photography for the live-action Moana commenced on July 29, 2024, marking the beginning of an ambitious production that would span 2 distinct filming locations over approximately 4 months. The production adopted the working title canon during filming, a common practice in Hollywood designed to maintain some level of secrecy and prevent unwanted attention at filming locations. This start date represented a significant delay from originally planned timelines, as the production had initially been scheduled to begin filming in October 2023 under the working title Motorheads. The SAG-AFTRA strike had necessitated these delays, pushing the entire production schedule back by several months and requiring extensive replanning and coordination. The dual-location filming strategy reflected both practical considerations and creative ambitions. The production divided its time between Atlanta, Georgia, and various locations in Hawaii, each serving distinct purposes in bringing Moana's world to life. The Atlanta portion of filming centered on Trilith Studios in Fayetteville, Georgia, a state-of-the-art facility that has become increasingly popular for major studio productions. Trilith Studios offered controlled environment filming capabilities that proved essential for sequences requiring extensive green screen work, complex special effects, and precise lighting control. The studio setting allowed the production team to construct detailed sets representing interior locations, village structures, and environments that would later be enhanced with visual effects. The controlled conditions also facilitated the intricate work needed to capture performance elements that would be combined with CGI creatures, environments, and magical effects in post-production. The Hawaii filming component brought authenticity and natural beauty that no studio set could replicate. Production moved to Hawaii to capture genuine ocean sequences, island landscapes, and the natural light and atmosphere of Pacific Islander territories. Filming in Hawaii carried particular cultural significance, as it allowed the production to work in locations that genuinely reflected the Polynesian setting of Moana's story. The decision to film on location demonstrated Disney's commitment to visual authenticity and provided opportunities to involve local communities and cultural consultants throughout the production process. Principal photography in Hawaii included work at various locations, with Oahu specifically mentioned as a primary filming site. The production wrapped its Hawaii filming at Pokai Bay on November 22, 2024, with the final day of shooting reportedly timed to capture one of Hawaii's legendary sunsets. Behind the camera, Disney assembled a technical team with impressive credentials. Atilda Scarfora served as cinematographer, bringing his expertise in visual storytelling to the challenge of translating Moana's animated world into live-action cinematography. Fora's previous work had demonstrated his capability in handling large-scale productions with complex visual requirements, making him well-suited to navigate the challenges of shooting both practical ocean sequences and studio effects work. The cinematographer's role proved particularly crucial given the film's reliance on water photography, which presents unique technical challenges in terms of lighting, camera movement, and protecting equipment while capturing authentic-looking ocean environments. Visual effects supervision fell to Bill Westenhofer, an Oscar-winning visual effects artist with an extensive resume spanning some of Hollywood's most ambitious effects-driven productions. Notably, Westenhofer left his position on the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Captain America: Brave New World, 2025, to take on Moana, signaling both the prestige and the technical challenges associated with the project. Westenhofer had previously won Academy Awards for his visual effects work on Life of Pi and The Golden Compass, demonstrating his mastery of creating believable fantasy creatures and environments. His expertise would prove essential in bringing to life the film's various magical elements, including the sentient ocean, the volcanic demon Tka Diaresis, the coconut-armored Kakama'ara warriors, and Maui's shape-shifting abilities. The visual effects workload was distributed among multiple premier VFX studios, reflecting the scale and complexity of the project. Industrial Light Magic, ILM, one of the industry's most prestigious effects houses, took on significant portions of the work. Zyada FX, the New Zealand-based studio renowned for its work on the Lord of the Rings trilogy and numerous other landmark films, contributed expertise under the supervision of Guy Williams. Additional effects work was handled by Clear Angle Studios, Day for Night, Digital Domain, and Lola VFX, creating a collaborative network of specialized talent working toward a unified vision. This multi-studio approach allowed different facilities to focus on their particular areas of expertise while maintaining consistent quality across the entire film. One particularly notable aspect of the physical production involved the creation of a specialized bodysuit for Dwayne Johnson to wear when portraying Maui. The demigod character is distinguished by his massive physique and extensive traditional Polynesian tattoos covering his body. While Johnson maintains an impressive physical presence through his own dedication to fitness, the character of Maui requires an even more exaggerated muscular form. Joel Harlow, an Oscar-winning special makeup effects artist whose credits include numerous high-profile productions such as Johnson's own Jungle Cruise and Red One, designed a bulky suit that took considerable time to apply each day. Johnson himself acknowledged in interviews that the transformation process required a couple of hours every day, a substantial time commitment that needed to be factored into the shooting schedule. The practical challenges of this approach became public knowledge when paparazzi photographs from the set leaked online in 2024. Johnson, who had attempted to maintain secrecy around certain production elements, expressed surprise at the photograph's appearance. The production team had erected walls around filming locations to prevent paparazzi access, but photographers in boats managed to capture images of Johnson in costume, revealing the bodysuit approach. While Johnson reacted with good humor to the breach, acknowledging they got caught, the incident highlighted the intense public interest in the production and the challenges of maintaining secrecy in the modern media landscape. A controversial aspect of the production process emerged in August 2025 through reporting in the Wall Street Journal. According to the report, Disney had developed plans in collaboration with company Metaphysic to create deepfakes of Johnson's face that could be layered onto his cousin and frequent stunt double, Naye Reid, who stands 6'3" and weighs approximately 250 pounds, has served as Johnson's body double and stunt performer on numerous productions, including the Fast Furious franchise, Skyscraper, 2018, both Jumanji films, and Jungle Cruise, 2021. The deepfake plan would have functioned as a digital double technology, effectively allowing Johnson to appear in scenes without being physically present on set for certain days. The concept received Johnson's approval, and Disney and Metaphysic spent approximately 18 months negotiating contracts and developing the technology. Metaphysic, which describes itself as an AI-powered visual effects studio, had previously worked on projects involving AI-generated face replacements, including digital age manipulation for Tom Hanks and Robin Wright in the Robert Zemeckis film Here, and creating a digital recreation of late actor Ian Holm for Alien, Romulus. The company had also demonstrated its capabilities through live television applications, including creating a real-time face swap that allowed Eminem to share the stage with his alter ego Slim Shady at the 2024 MTV Video Music Awards. However, as negotiations progressed, Disney encountered significant legal and ownership concerns. The primary issue centered on intellectual property rights and whether Disney could claim full ownership over every element of the film if portions involved AI-generated content. The legal landscape surrounding AI-generated material remains uncertain, with questions about copyright, ownership, and liability still being debated in courts and legislative bodies. Disney's legal team became increasingly uncomfortable with the ambiguity, particularly given the company's need to maintain clear rights over its intellectual property for future exploitation across various platforms and merchandise. Additional concerns arose regarding potential public backlash. The use of AI in filmmaking had become increasingly controversial, with various stakeholders including actors, writers, and audiences expressing concerns about the technology's implications for creative workers and artistic integrity. The SAG-AFTRA strike that had already delayed the production had partially focused on protections around AI use and digital likeness rights. In this context, Disney's use of AI deepfakes, even with Johnson's consent, risked generating negative publicity that could overshadow the film itself. Reports indicated that Disney executives concluded that the company couldn't risk the bad publicity associated with being perceived as pioneers of AI replacement technology in a tentpole production. Ultimately, none of the footage shot using the AI deepfake technology appeared in the final film when it was released. The decision to abandon the AI approach meant that Johnson needed to be physically present for all his scenes, or traditional visual effects and body double techniques would be employed instead. This resolution aligned with broader industry conversations about responsible AI use and helped the production avoid potential controversy, though it also represented a significant investment of time and resources that ultimately went unused. Post-production. Following the completion of principal photography in November 2024, Moana entered an extensive post-production phase that would continue through 2025 and into early 2026. The post-production process for a visual effects-heavy production of this scale typically requires substantial time to complete, particularly given the film's reliance on computer-generated elements to bring its magical world to life. By November 17, 2025, when Disney released the first teaser trailer, the film's production status was listed as post-production, indicating that filming had been completed and the team was focused on editing, sound design, music composition and recording, and the addition of visual and sound effects. The visual effects workload represented one of the most substantial aspects of post-production. The film required the creation of numerous computer-generated elements, each presenting unique technical challenges. The sentient ocean, one of the story's most distinctive characters, needed to appear as water while also expressing personality and emotion through its movements and interactions with Moana. Creating believable water effects has long been one of the most technically demanding aspects of visual effects work, requiring sophisticated simulation software and extensive rendering time to achieve photorealistic results. The character of Tka Diaresis, the volcanic demon that serves as one of the story's primary antagonists, presented equally complex challenges. The character consists of molten lava and rock, requiring the visual effects team to simulate both the intense heat and light of volcanic material and the massive physical scale of the creature. Similarly, the Kakama'ara, the tribe of adorable yet intimidating coconut-armored warriors who attack Moana in Maui during their journey, needed to be realized in a way that translated their animated charm to live action while maintaining their threatening presence. Maui's shape-shifting abilities represented another significant visual effects challenge. In the animated film and in the story tradition from Polynesian mythology, Maui can transform into various animals and creatures. The live-action adaptation needed to create seamless transitions between Johnson's physical performance and various animal forms, including a hawk, a beetle, and potentially other creatures. The teaser trailer released in November 2025 provided glimpses of these transformations, showing Maui shifting from a beetle form to human form and then taking flight as a hawk, suggesting that the visual effects team had achieved successful results in translating this magical element to live action. The bioluminescent effects that played such a memorable role in the animated films We Know the Way sequence required careful recreation in live action. These glowing elements, which represent the spirits of Moana's ancestors and the magical nature of Polynesian wayfinding traditions, needed to appear both beautiful and meaningful without seeming artificial or overprocessed. The production's use of advances in visual effects technology since 2016 potentially allowed for more sophisticated approaches to these effects, including improved rendering techniques for translucent and glowing materials. Color grading and overall visual polish represented another crucial aspect of post-production. The film needed to maintain visual continuity between footage shot in controlled studio environments and practical footage captured on location in Hawaii. The color palette had to honor the animated film's vibrant, saturated approach while translating it into a live-action aesthetic that audiences would find believable. This process required careful work to ensure that the CGI elements integrated seamlessly with practical photography and that the overall look maintained consistency throughout the film's runtime. Sound design and mixing posed their own challenges, particularly for a musical production. The film needed to balance dialogue, musical numbers, sound effects, and orchestral score in a way that served both the dramatic moments and the musical performances. Ocean sounds, in particular, needed to be carefully crafted to avoid overwhelming other audio elements while still conveying the power and presence of the sea as a character in the story. The teaser trailer released on November 17, 2025. Provided the first public glimpse of the post-production work in progress. The minute-long preview opened with Catherine Laga'ai performing a portion of How Far I'll Go, the Oscar-nominated anthem from the original film. Her vocal performance, gentle yet determined, anchored a visually rich montage that showcased various aspects of the production. The trailer included footage of young Moana's childhood interaction with the ocean, sweeping island landscapes that highlighted the Hawaii location filming, and the mysterious transformation sequence showing a shimmering insect that transforms into a human figure. The teaser concluded with Dwayne Johnson's Maui leaping off a cliff in classic demigod fashion, marking his grand entrance into the narrative. The reception to the teaser trailer proved mixed among fans and critics. Many viewers praised the visual beauty of the footage and expressed excitement at seeing the beloved story brought to life in live-action form. Catherine Laga'ai's brief vocal performance generated positive reactions, with many commenting on her voice quality and her physical resemblance to the animated character. However, other viewers questioned the necessity of remaking a film that was less than a decade old, part of a broader debate about Disney's strategy of remaking recent animated films rather than focusing exclusively on older properties from their classic library. Music. The musical component of Moana represented one of the original film's greatest strengths, with songs like How Far I'll Go and You're Welcome becoming cultural phenomena that extended far beyond the movie theater. The live-action adaptation faced the challenge of recreating this musical magic while potentially adding new elements to justify the remake's existence. The production announced the return of key figures from the original film's music team, while also incorporating changes that reflected availability and creative direction. Mark Mancina, who had provided the musical score for both the 2016 animated original and its 2024 sequel Moana 2, confirmed in December 2024 that he would return to score the live-action remake. Mancina's involvement provided crucial continuity with the animated films, as his orchestral work had been instrumental in creating the emotional landscape and Pacific Islander musical influences that define Moana's sound. His score for the original film had incorporated not only traditional orchestral instruments but also Polynesian percussion, woodwinds made from bamboo sourced from the South Pacific, and traditional hide-covered taika drums. This approach, which blended Western orchestral traditions with authentic Pacific Islander musical elements, helped ground the fantastical story in cultural authenticity while maintaining broad appeal to mainstream audiences. Lin-Manuel Miranda's return represented another significant element of continuity. Miranda, who had written the original songs for the 2016 animated film including the Oscar-nominated How Far I'll Go, would serve as both producer and songwriter for the live-action adaptation. Miranda's involvement carried particular significance given his absence from Moana 2, which had resulted from scheduling conflicts that arose when he committed to writing songs for Disney's Mufasa, The Lion King, 2024. Miranda's distinctive songwriting style, which successfully blended Broadway sensibilities with hip-hop influences and Pacific Islander musical traditions, had been a defining characteristic of the original Moana's soundtrack. His return suggested that the live-action version would maintain close ties to the musical identity established in 2016. The collaboration between Miranda, Mancina, and Pacific Islander musician Opadiah Foe had produced the original film's celebrated soundtrack. For the 2016 animated film, Disney had specifically sought to combine traditional South Pacific culture with pop and Broadway sensibilities, leading to the assembly of this particular creative team. Foe, a Tok'la and singer-songwriter, had brought authentic Pacific Islander musical traditions and perspective to the collaboration, with his New Zealand-based vocal group T-Vac performing on several tracks. The songs had featured Foe's group along with a choir from Fiji, creating a richly layered sound that honored Pacific Islander musical heritage while remaining accessible to global audiences. The first song completed for the original film had been We Know the Way, which Foe began developing after his initial meeting with Disney in December 2013. This song, which serves as a musical representation of Polynesian wayfinding traditions and ancestral connection, featured vocals in Polynesian languages and became one of the soundtrack's most culturally significant pieces. The trio of Miranda, Mancina, and Foe had worked together in both New Zealand and Los Angeles to develop the full soundtrack, with Miranda recruiting cast members from his Broadway hits Hamilton and In the Heights to help record demos of his songs. For the live-action adaptation, the soundtrack was expected to include reimagined versions of the original film's songs while potentially incorporating new material. The teaser trailer featured Catherine Lagaya singing a portion of How Far I'll Go, providing the first taste of how the iconic songs would sound in live-action form. Her vocal performance suggested a somewhat different interpretation than Ali Gravlo's animated version, with a gentler, more intimate quality that suited live-action performance while maintaining the song's emotional core. How Far I'll Go had been one of the original film's breakthrough moments, appearing multiple times throughout the story as Moana's personal anthem expressing her yearning to voyage beyond the reef despite her father's objections. The song had received an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Song, a Golden Globe nomination, and won the Grammy Award for Best Song Written for Visual Media. Alessia Cara's and Credits version of the song had achieved significant radio airplay, helping extend the film's reach beyond theatrical audiences. The song's success had established high expectations for how it would be realized in live-action form. You're Welcome, Maui's bombastic self-introduction song performed by Dwayne Johnson in the animated film, represented another musical highlight that audiences would expect to hear in the live-action version. The song, inspired by Flight of the Conchords' David Bowie tribute and Bowie's own music, had become inextricably linked with Johnson's performance and had taken on a life of its own in popular culture. Johnson had performed the song numerous times outside the film context, including a memorable moment during a WWE Raw episode in March 2024 when he sang a line from the chorus while threatening fellow wrestler Cody Rhodes. The trailer briefly showed glimpses of what appeared to be Maui's entrance, suggesting that You're Welcome would indeed appear in the live-action version. Other songs from the original soundtrack would presumably receive live-action treatment as well, though specific details about which songs would be included and whether new material would be added remained undisclosed at the time of the first trailer's release. Where You Are, the village song that introduces Moana's community and her father's expectations. Shiny, Tamatoa's glam rock number, and I Am Moana, Song of the Ancestors, the emotional climax where Moana embraces her identity, all represented potential inclusions that fans would anticipate. The decision to maintain close musical continuity with the animated original represented a calculated strategy. Unlike some live-action remakes that had experimented with significantly altered or updated musical arrangements, Moana appeared to be taking a more reverential approach to its source material. This choice reflected both the relatively recent origin of the original songs and their continued popularity. The animated Moana's soundtrack had demonstrated remarkable longevity, remaining in regular rotation on streaming platforms and maintaining cultural presence through the years following the film's release. The songs had become deeply associated with the story and characters in audiences' minds, creating expectations that the live-action version would deliver recognizable versions rather than radical reinterpretations. The live-action format presented unique opportunities and challenges for the musical numbers. Unlike animation, where musical sequences can ignore physical constraints and feature impossible camera movements or transitions. Live-action musicals must ground their musical numbers in some level of physical reality. The production would need to determine how to stage and choreograph the musical sequences in ways that felt natural within the live-action context while maintaining the energy and visual interest that made the animated versions memorable. The integration of visual effects with live musical performance would be particularly crucial for numbers like Shiny, which takes place in an underwater environment with a massive, bioluminescent crab, or sequences involving the sentient ocean. The vocal performances themselves represented another consideration. Animated voice acting allows for different production techniques than live-action singing, and translating songs from one format to another can reveal different qualities in the material. Catherine Lagaya, making her film debut, would need to carry much of the musical weight as Moana, performing songs that had become iconic through Ali Gravlo's interpretation. The teaser suggested that Lagaya possessed the vocal capability for the role, but the full scope of her performance across multiple musical numbers remained to be seen. Dwayne Johnson's return as Maui meant that he would once again perform the character's songs, primarily You're Welcome. Johnson had proven in the animated film that he could deliver a charismatic musical performance despite not being primarily known as a singer. His natural charm and comedic timing had served the character well in the original, and his comfort with the material after having performed it numerous times since 2016 suggested he would bring confidence to the live-action musical numbers. The production's emphasis on cultural authenticity extended to the musical elements as well. Disney had emphasized throughout the development process that they were consulting with Pacific Islander communities and incorporating their feedback and perspective into various aspects of the production. The involvement of cultural consultants in the musical components would help ensure that Polynesian musical traditions, instruments, and vocal styles were represented appropriately and respectfully. This attention to cultural detail had been a strength of the original film's soundtrack and would presumably remain a priority for the live-action version. The score's ability to support both quiet emotional moments and spectacular action sequences would be tested in the live-action format. Mancini's original score had ranged from intimate character moments to sweeping orchestral passages accompanying Moana's voyage across the ocean and her confrontation with TKA diaresis. The live-action version would need score that could support real actors' performances while also enhancing the visual effects-driven sequences that would populate the film. The combination of live-action cinematography with extensive CGI elements might require different musical approaches than the fully animated original, potentially offering Mancini opportunities to explore new emotional textures while maintaining thematic connections to his previous work. Released theatrical. The release strategy for the live-action Moana underwent significant revision between the project's announcement and its ultimate theatrical debut date. The film was initially scheduled for release on June 27, 2025. Positioning it as a summer tentpole release that would compete in the crowded seasonal marketplace alongside other major studio releases. However, Disney's release plans shifted dramatically following the announcement and subsequent success of Moana 2, the animated sequel that premiered in November 2024. Moana 2 had originally been conceived and developed as a Disney Plus streaming series that would have continued the story beyond the events of the first film. However, Disney made the strategic decision in January 2024 to convert the series into a theatrical feature film, recognizing the continued audience appetite for Moana content and the potential for significant box office returns. This decision, while proving commercially successful for the animated sequel, created a scheduling challenge for the live-action remake. Disney determined that releasing the live-action version in June 2025, only approximately 7 months after Moana 2's theatrical debut, would create too short a gap between major Moana releases and potentially cannibalize audience interest. In response to these concerns, Disney delayed the live-action Moana by 1 year to its current release date of July 10, 2026. This rescheduling served multiple strategic purposes beyond simply creating distance from Moana 2. The new date, July 10, 2026, would coincide with the 10th anniversary of the original Moana's theatrical release, which had premiered in November 2016 but remained in cultural consciousness throughout the subsequent decade. This anniversary timing provided Disney with a national hook for marketing the film as a celebration of a decade of Moana's impact on audiences, while also positioning the live-action version as both a tribute to and an evolution of the original. The July 2026 release positioned Moana in the heart of summer movie season, typically one of the most competitive and potentially lucrative periods for theatrical releases. Summer audiences traditionally include large numbers of families seeking entertainment options during school vacation periods, creating ideal conditions for a family-friendly musical adventure. The film would face competition from other studios' summer releases, but Disney's marketing machine and the built-in awareness for the Moana brand provided competitive advantages in a crowded marketplace. Disney announced that the film would receive an IMAX release, indicating confidence in the production's visual spectacle and desire to maximize premium large-format ticket sales. IMAX releases have become increasingly important to major studio releases, offering enhanced visual and audio experiences that justify higher ticket prices and create distinctive marketing opportunities. The decision to pursue an IMAX release suggested that Disney viewed the live-action Moana as a visual showcase worthy of the largest theatrical presentations, with the film's ocean sequences, action set pieces, and visual effects-driven moments presumably designed to take advantage of IMAX's expanded frame and enhanced sound systems. The theatrical release strategy represented a significant commitment to traditional cinema exhibition at a time when Disney and other major studios had been experimenting with various release windows and hybrid theatrical streaming models. By scheduling Moana exclusively for theatrical release with no announced simultaneous streaming availability, Disney signaled its belief in the film's theatrical prospects and its desire to maximize box office revenue before making the film available on Disney+. This approach aligned with Disney's recent strategy of returning to longer theatrical windows for major releases following the pandemic-era experiments with day-and-date releases. The teaser trailer, released on November 17, 2025, nearly 8 months before the film's scheduled theatrical debut, kicked off what would presumably be an extensive marketing campaign. The early release of promotional materials aligned with Disney's typical strategy for major tentpole releases, building awareness and anticipation over an extended period leading to release. The trailer's release timing also positioned it to appear in theaters ahead of major holiday releases in November and December 2025. Providing exposure to large theatrical audiences during peak movie-going periods. Disney's marketing would need to navigate several potentially challenging narratives surrounding the film. The relative recency of the animated original meant that the live-action version would face inevitable comparisons and questions about necessity. Some audience segments expressed skepticism about remaking a film that remained fresh in cultural memory and that many viewers had grown up with during their childhood or young adulthood. The marketing strategy would presumably emphasize the unique qualities of the live-action adaptation, the cultural authenticity brought by the predominantly Pacific Islander cast, and the visual spectacle that live-action with modern visual effects could provide. The theatrical release would serve as the initial revenue generator in what would undoubtedly be a multi-platform exploitation strategy extending across numerous markets and formats. Disney's live-action remakes had generally performed strongly at the global box office, with films like Beauty and the Beast, 2017, The Lion King, 2019, and Aladdin, 2019, each earning over $1 billion worldwide. While past performance did not guarantee future results, these precedents suggested significant commercial potential for Moana, particularly given the original's demonstrated popularity across diverse international markets. Home media. While specific details about home media release plans had not been announced at the time of the first trailer's release in November 2025, Disney's established patterns with previous live-action remakes provide strong indicators of what audiences can expect from Moana's post-theatrical distribution. The home media strategy for major Disney releases typically follows a well-established timeline and multi-format approach designed to maximize revenue across various windows while maintaining the film's value proposition at each stage of release. Based on Disney's recent practices with comparable theatrical releases, The live-action Moana would likely become available for digital purchase and rental approximately 45 to 60 days following its theatrical debut. This digital release window represents Disney's current standard practice for theatrical exclusives that are not part of day-and-date streaming strategies. The digital release would presumably include options for purchase through major platforms including iTunes, Amazon Prime Video, Vudu, Google Play, and Microsoft Store, with rental options typically following shortly after purchase availability. Premium pricing strategies might apply during the initial digital release period, with prices gradually adjusting downward over subsequent weeks and months. Physical media releases, including 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, Standard Blu-ray, and potentially DVD formats, would typically arrive several weeks after the initial digital release. Disney has maintained commitment to physical media releases for its major theatrical titles despite industry-wide declining physical media sales, recognizing that collector markets and certain demographic segments continue to prefer physical ownership. The physical releases would likely feature extensive bonus materials designed to justify purchase over rental or streaming options. These supplementary features typically include behind-the-scenes documentaries exploring the production process, deleted or extended scenes with optional director commentary, featurettes focusing on specific aspects such as visual effects creation, costume and set design, musical production, and cultural consultation processes. For a film as effects-intensive as Moana, bonus materials would likely emphasize the technical achievements involved in bringing the story to life in live-action format. Potential featurettes might explore the creation of the sentient ocean effects, the process of filming on location in Hawaii, the design and application of Maui's bodysuit and tattoos, the integration of practical and digital elements, and the challenges of translating animated sequences into live-action choreography. Music-focused extras would presumably include recording sessions with the cast, discussions with Mark Mancina and Lin-Manuel Miranda about adapting songs for live-action performance, and potentially comparison pieces showing how musical numbers evolved from animated to live-action interpretations. Cultural authenticity features would hold particular importance given the film-specific Highlander setting and Disney's emphasis on cultural consultation throughout production. Bonus materials might include documentaries about Polynesian culture, wayfinding traditions, and mythology, interviews with cultural consultants who guided the production, and explorations of how the film incorporated authentic cultural elements in costume design, language, music, and storytelling approaches. These cultural features would serve both educational purposes and help demonstrate Disney's commitment to respectful representation. The Disney Plus streaming release represents another crucial component of the home media strategy, though specific timing would depend on various factors including theatrical performance, digital sales figures, and Disney's overall content strategy for the platform. Recent Disney theatrical releases have generally arrived on Disney Plus approximately 4 to 6 months following theatrical debut, though this window has varied based on box office performance and strategic considerations. Strong theatrical performers might receive extended theatrical and premium VOD windows to maximize premium revenue streams before transitioning to subscription streaming. When Moana does arrive on Disney Plus, it would presumably receive prominent placement on the platform's home screen and within curated collections. Disney would likely create special collections grouping the live-action remake with the original animated film and Moana 2, allowing subscribers to easily compare different versions and encouraging viewing of the entire franchise. The streaming release would include multiple language options, closed captioning, and audio description tracks to ensure accessibility for diverse audiences. The film's eventual appearance on Disney Plus would serve strategic purposes beyond simply making the content available to subscribers. It would contribute to Disney Plus's overall content library value, potentially helping retain subscribers and attract new ones during competitive periods. The platform release would also extend the film's cultural reach to audiences who might not have viewed it theatrically, potentially generating renewed interest in merchandise, theme park attractions, and future franchise installments. The streaming availability would be particularly valuable for younger audiences who might have missed the theatrical release but could discover the film through Disney Plus's interface. International home media releases would follow similar patterns while accounting for regional variations in format preferences, pricing structures, and distribution partnerships. Some international markets maintain stronger physical media markets than North America, potentially justifying more elaborate physical editions in those territories. Regional bonus features might include language-specific making of content or features emphasizing cultural connections relevant to specific markets. Special edition releases might follow months or years after initial home media availability, potentially coinciding with anniversaries or franchise milestones. Disney has occasionally released premium physical editions featuring enhanced packaging, additional bonus materials, collectible elements, or bundled content combining multiple films in a franchise. For Moana, potential special editions might include combo packages with the animated original and sequel, premium packaging featuring Pacific Islander artistic designs, or collector's editions with replica props or other physical collectibles. The home media strategy would also account for various international distribution partnerships and licensing arrangements that vary by territory. Disney's approach to international distribution has evolved over recent decades, with some markets seeing direct Disney distribution while others involve local partnership arrangements. These variations can affect release timing, pricing, and available formats in different regions, though Disney generally attempts to maintain relatively consistent global strategies for major releases to minimize piracy concerns and maximize legitimate distribution revenues. Accessibility features would receive particular attention in home media releases, reflecting both legal requirements and Disney's stated commitment to inclusive entertainment. Beyond standard closed captioning, releases would likely include descriptive audio tracks providing narration of visual elements for visually impaired viewers, multiple subtitle language options, and potentially specialized audio mixes designed for different home theater configurations. The digital and streaming releases would incorporate these accessibility features from launch, while physical media would include them as standard elements. Reception box office as of late 2025. With the film still in post-production and not scheduled for theatrical release until July 10, 2026, actual box office figures remain entirely speculative. However, industry analysts, box office prognosticators, and entertainment media outlets have offered extensive projections and analysis regarding the live-action Moana's commercial prospects. These projections reveal both the significant financial potential Disney sees in the property and the considerable uncertainty surrounding live-action remakes in the current theatrical landscape. Early box office predictions for the live-action Moana vary widely depending on the analyst and their underlying assumptions about market conditions, competition, and audience reception. Conservative estimates place the film's potential worldwide gross in the range of $650 million to $700 million, while more optimistic projections suggest the film could achieve $800 million to $900 million globally, with some analysts even suggesting potential to approach or exceed $1 billion under favorable conditions. These projections must be understood within the context of Disney's live-action remake track record, which shows considerable variance in commercial performance. The most successful Disney live-action remake remains The Lion King from 2019, which grossed approximately $1.66 billion worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing animated film of all time until it was surpassed. This phenomenal performance set a high watermark that subsequent remakes have struggled to approach. Beauty and the Beast from 2017 earned $1.26 billion worldwide, while Aladdin from 2019 reached $1.05 billion. These successes demonstrated that certain Disney properties possessed sufficient cultural cachet and multi-generational appeal to generate massive box office returns when reimagined in live-action format. However, more recent Disney live-action remakes have demonstrated diminishing returns and increased audience skepticism. The Little Mermaid from 2023 earned approximately $570 million worldwide against a reported production budget of $240 million, representing a commercial disappointment relative to expectations. Dumbo from 2019 grossed just $352 million worldwide despite Disney's marketing push and director Tim Burton's involvement. The live-action Moana, released during the pandemic with a hybrid theatrical streaming strategy, earned approximately $70 million theatrically, though direct consumer spending on Disney Plus was not publicly disclosed. These underperformances suggest that not all Disney animated properties translate equally well to live-action treatment and that audience appetite for remakes may be waning. The original animated Moana provides a baseline for commercial expectations, though direct comparisons prove complicated. The 2016 film earned approximately $643 million worldwide during its theatrical run, with $248 million domestically and $395 million internationally. While respectable, these figures placed Moana in the middle tier of Disney animated releases rather than among the studio's highest grossers. However, the film's theatrical performance told only part of its commercial story. Moana became one of the most watched films on Disney Plus following the streaming service's launch, consistently ranking among the platform's top titles year after year. This sustained streaming popularity suggested that Moana's cultural reach extended far beyond its initial theatrical footprint and that the property had grown significantly in awareness and affection during the years following its release. Moana 2, which premiered in November 2024, provided crucial updated data about the franchise's current commercial viability. The animated sequel, which had originally been developed as a Disney Plus series before being converted to a theatrical release, exceeded expectations by grossing over $1 billion worldwide within weeks of release. This performance demonstrated that the Moana brand had strengthened considerably in the 8 years since the original film and that audiences maintained strong appetite for new adventures featuring these characters. The sequel's success provided significant positive indicators for the live-action remake's prospects, though it also complicated the competitive landscape by placing another major Moana release in close proximity to the July 2026 live-action debut. Industry analysts applying various methodologies to predict the live-action Moana's box office potential consider numerous factors in their models. Domestic box office projections typically range from $250 million to $320 million, with opening weekend estimates varying from $60 million to $85 million depending on assumptions about marketing effectiveness, critical reception, and competition. These domestic projections would place Moana in the upper tier of family films but below the performance of Disney's most successful live-action remakes. International box office projections show even greater variation, ranging from $400 million to $560 million depending on assumptions about the film's appeal in key markets including China, Japan, Latin America, and Europe. The original animated Moana performed particularly strongly in certain international markets, especially Japan, where it benefited from extended theatrical runs and enthusiastic audience reception. However, international box office has become increasingly unpredictable in recent years, with various factors including pandemic aftereffects, shifting theatrical windows, streaming competition, and economic conditions affecting market-by-market performance. The competitive landscape for summer 2026 presents both opportunities and significant challenges for Moana's box office prospects. The film releases on July 10, 2026. Positioning it in the heart of summer blockbuster season when family audiences are most actively seeking theatrical entertainment. However, the summer 2026 slate has developed into one of the most crowded and competitive in recent memory, with numerous high-profile releases vying for audience attention and box office dollars. Most significantly, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey releases just 1 week after Moana on July 17, 2026. Nolan's films have proven to be major box office events with extraordinary staying power, as demonstrated by Oppenheimer's remarkable 2023 performance, which saw the film gross over $950 million worldwide despite adult-oriented subject matter and lengthy runtime. The Odyssey has generated unprecedented advance interest, with some premium format screenings selling out a full year before release. This level of anticipation suggests that Nolan's film will dominate cultural conversation and premium theater screens throughout late July and into August, potentially limiting Moana's ability to maintain momentum beyond its opening weekend. Additional competition arrives from other family-oriented releases surrounding Moana's debut. Minions 3 releases on July 1, 2026. Just 9 days before Moana, the Minions franchise has demonstrated consistent commercial strength, with previous installments regularly exceeding $800 million worldwide. While Minions 3 would likely front-load its business during the July 4th holiday weekend, it would still be competing for family audiences during Moana's opening weekend. Spider-Man: Brand New Day follows on July 31, 2026. Bringing another major franchise tentpole that could draw audience attention away from Moana during what would typically be crucial later weeks of theatrical run. The broader summer 2026 landscape includes additional major releases that, while not directly competitive with Moana's target audience, contribute to marketplace saturation. The Super Mario Galaxy movie arrives in April, Toy Story 5 in June, and both Jumanji 3 and Avengers: Doomsday are scheduled for later in the year. This concentration of major franchise releases creates an environment where each film must fight harder for attention and where audience fatigue becomes a genuine concern. Industry projections suggesting that 2026 could represent the highest grossing year since 2019 are predicated on assumptions that there will be enough audience demand to support all these major releases, but individual film performance could suffer if audiences prove more selective than anticipated. Economic factors also influence box office projections for summer 2026. Ticket prices have continued rising post-pandemic, with premium large format screens commanding particularly high prices. While higher ticket prices can boost gross revenues, they could also discourage marginal moviegoers or lead audiences to be more selective about theatrical attendance. Family audiences in particular face significant financial considerations when deciding whether to attend theatrical screenings, as taking a family of 4 to see a film in premium format with concessions can easily exceed $100. These economics favor sure-bet family experiences but can disadvantage films that face questions about necessity or value proposition. Marketing and promotional strategy will prove crucial to Moana's box office performance. Disney's marketing budget for the film has not been publicly disclosed, but comparable live-action remakes typically receive marketing spends in the range of $100 million or more globally. The first teaser trailer released in November 2025 represented the opening salvo in what will likely be an extensive campaign featuring multiple trailers, television advertising during family-oriented programming, digital and social media promotion, promotional partnerships with consumer products companies, theme park integration, and extensive press tours featuring the cast. Dwayne Johnson's participation provides significant promotional advantage, as he maintains one of the largest and most engaged social media followings among actors and has proven ability to generate buzz and goodwill for his projects. However, the initial trailer reception complicated Disney's marketing challenge. The teaser generated a notably negative response on social media and YouTube, with dislike ratios significantly exceeding likes in the first 48 hours following release. Within days of posting, the trailer accumulated approximately 71,000 dislikes compared to 35,000 likes on YouTube, representing a roughly 67% dislike ratio according to third-party tracking tools. This negative engagement pattern, while not necessarily predictive of ultimate box office performance, signaled substantial audience skepticism about the project and created marketing headwinds Disney would need to overcome in subsequent promotional efforts. Production budget considerations factor heavily into assessments of box office success or failure. While Disney has not officially disclosed Moana's production budget, industry estimates place it in the range of $150 million to $200 million. This figure aligns with typical costs for effects-heavy live-action productions featuring extensive location filming, large casts, and substantial visual effects work. Using standard Hollywood accounting rules suggesting that films must gross approximately 2.5 times their production budget to achieve profitability when accounting for marketing costs and distribution fees, Moana would need to gross between $375 million and $500 million worldwide to break even. By this measure, even conservative box office projections suggest the film would likely achieve profitability, though the margin between success and disappointment narrows if the film underperforms relative to expectations. IMAX and premium large format releases will contribute disproportionately to Moana's box office performance if the film successfully books these screens. Premium format tickets typically cost 30 to 50% more than standard admission, and films that effectively utilize these formats can see premium screens contribute 15 to 25% of total box office despite representing a much smaller percentage of total screens. However, premium format availability may be limited by competition, particularly from the Odyssey, which has already secured commitments for extended IMAX runs and which represents the type of prestige release that typically receives priority booking on premium screens. Box office analysts also consider word of mouth and audience reception metrics in their projections. Films that generate strong audience enthusiasm typically demonstrate better than expected holds in second and subsequent weekends, while films that disappoint audiences show accelerated drop-offs. For Moana, positive word of mouth could be generated through strong musical performances, impressive visual spectacle, cultural authenticity, or emotional resonance that connects with audiences. Conversely, negative reception could stem from unfavorable comparisons to the animated original, perceived lack of necessity for the remake, weak musical execution, or any cultural missteps in representation. Critical reception, while less directly correlated with box office performance for family films than for adult-oriented releases, still influences audience decisions at the margins and shapes media narratives that can amplify or suppress audience interest. The comparison with other 2026 releases provides context for understanding Moana's commercial prospects. Analyst predictions compiled from various sources suggest that films like Avengers, Doomsday could gross well over $1 billion, Spider-Man, Brand New Day might reach $800 million to $1 billion, and The Odyssey could achieve $700 million to $900 million. Within this landscape, predictions placing Moana in the $650 million to $875 million range position it as a solid commercial performer but not necessarily a runaway blockbuster. These projections suggest that Disney executives would likely view performance in this range as satisfactory given the film's budget and strategic importance, though they would certainly hope for upside surprise. One particularly optimistic analysis suggested that Moana could potentially break Disney's live-action remake record currently held by The Lion King's $1.6 billion gross. This projection, published in March 2025 following Moana 2's strong theatrical performance, argued that the franchise had proven its strength and that the live-action version was well positioned to capitalize on this momentum. However, this analysis appeared to significantly underweight competitive factors and may have been influenced by the euphoria of Moana 2's immediate success rather than sober assessment of market realities. International market performance will prove particularly crucial to achieving higher-end box office projections. China, which has become increasingly important to Hollywood's international box office calculations, presents both opportunity and uncertainty for Moana. The original animated film performed moderately in China with approximately $21 million in grosses, suggesting neither strong affinity for the property nor active resistance. Chinese audience preferences have evolved since 2016, with domestic productions capturing increasing market share and Hollywood imports facing more selective reception. Political tensions between the United States and China have occasionally resulted in delayed releases or distribution challenges for American films. If Moana receives a favorable release date and effective marketing support in China, it could potentially achieve $50 to $100 million in the market, but underperformance or distribution challenges could significantly impact overall international totals. Other major international markets including Japan, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Mexico, Brazil, and Australia will collectively determine whether the film achieves the international total needed to meet higher-end projections. The original animated Moana showed particular strength in Japan, where it resonated with audiences and benefited from extended theatrical runs and repeat viewing. If the live-action version can replicate this Japanese success while maintaining solid performance across other territories, it would significantly boost overall international results. Currency exchange rate fluctuations present another variable affecting international box office reporting. Box office figures are typically reported in US dollars, but films earn revenues in local currencies that must be converted for reporting purposes. Significant currency movements between the time analysts make projections and actual release can impact reported international grosses by tens of millions of dollars, creating variance between projections and results that has nothing to do with actual ticket sales. The long-term commercial picture for Moana extends well beyond theatrical box office. Disney's strategy with live-action remakes encompasses multiple revenue streams including premium video on demand, physical media sales, streaming platform value, merchandise and licensing, theme park attractions and integration, and franchise extensions. Even a film that disappoints theatrically can ultimately prove profitable and strategically valuable when these additional revenue streams are considered. Moana's strong merchandise performance following the original animated release suggests that the live-action version could generate substantial licensing revenues regardless of theatrical performance. Disney's financial reporting typically does not break out individual film profitability in detail, making it difficult for outside observers to fully assess whether films achieve their financial goals. The studio evaluates releases not just on immediate theatrical returns but on contributions to broader strategic objectives including strengthening Disney Plus content library, maintaining franchise viability, demonstrating technical capabilities, and satisfying various stakeholder constituencies including theatrical exhibition partners, merchandise licensees, and theme park operators. For Disney shareholders and entertainment industry observers, Moana's box office performance will be scrutinized as an indicator of several broader trends. Strong performance would validate Disney's live-action remake strategy and potentially encourage additional accelerated remakes of recent animated properties. It would demonstrate that audiences remain willing to pay theatrical prices for reimagined versions of stories they already know in animated form, despite streaming availability of originals. Weak performance would raise questions about strategy, timing, and audience fatigue with remakes, potentially causing Disney to recalibrate its approach to live-action adaptations and possibly leading to delays or cancellations of other planned remakes. The film will also be watched as an indicator of Dwayne Johnson's continued box office drawing power. While Johnson remains one of Hollywood's most bankable stars with numerous successful films to his credit, recent releases have shown mixed results, and Moana will test whether his presence combined with a major Disney property can drive family audience turnout in a competitive environment. Johnson's significant social media presence and proven promotional abilities provide advantages, but ultimately audiences will decide whether his involvement in the project represents sufficient added value to justify theatrical attendance. As the July 2026 release date approaches, box office projections will be refined based on additional data including subsequent trailer releases and their reception, tracking studies measuring audience awareness and intent to view, competitive developments including any shifts in rival release dates, economic indicators and consumer confidence measures, and advanced ticket sales patterns particularly for premium format screenings. Disney's internal projections and expectations remain confidential, but external analyst consensus at the time of the first trailer release suggested expectations for solid if not spectacular commercial performance with potential for upside surprise if the film exceeds quality expectations and effectively differentiates itself from the animated original. Critical response with the film still in post-production as of late 2025 and not scheduled for release until July 10, 2026. Professional critical reviews remain unavailable. However, the critical reception discussion can be meaningfully framed by examining early fan and audience reactions to promotional materials, considering the critical reception patterns of previous Disney live-action remakes, and analyzing the specific factors that will likely influence how critics evaluate the film when they do see it. The first wave of public reaction to Moana came through responses to the teaser trailer released on November 17, 2025. This reaction, while not equivalent to professional critical assessment, provided insight into audience sentiment and identified potential pressure points that critics might later emphasize in their reviews. The trailer reception proved overwhelmingly negative across multiple social media platforms and comment sections, representing one of the more decisive early rejections of a major Disney marketing campaign in recent memory. On YouTube, where Disney posted the official teaser. The negative response manifested through dislike ratios that significantly exceeded likes. Third-party browser extensions tracking YouTube engagement showed approximately 71,000 dislikes compared to 35,000 likes within the first 48 hours, representing roughly a 67% dislike ratio. By the time more detailed tracking emerged days later, some reports indicated the gap had widened further with 85,000 dislikes to 37,000 likes. While YouTube metrics don't directly predict critical reception, such lopsided negative engagement is relatively rare for major studio tentpole releases and suggests substantial audience skepticism. The comment sections across various platforms revealed several recurring themes in audience criticism that may prefigure critical reception concerns. The most frequent complaints centered on timing and necessity. Countless commenters expressed bewilderment and frustration that Disney was remaking a film that premiered less than 10 years earlier in 2016 and that remained readily available on Disney+. Representative comments included sentiments like wondering why such a recent film warranted remake treatment when the original animated version remained fresh in cultural memory and accessible to current audiences. Critics writing reviews in 2026 will likely grapple with this same question of necessity, evaluating whether the live-action version offers sufficient new value, perspective, or experience to justify its existence beyond corporate strategy. The heavy reliance on computer-generated imagery despite the live-action designation emerged as another dominant complaint in early audience reactions. Multiple commenters noted that even footage depicting real actors and physical locations appeared heavily processed and artificial, while sequences involving the ocean, creatures, and magical elements looked predominantly or entirely computer-generated. This feedback suggested that audiences questioned what live-action meaningfully signified when so much of the visual presentation appeared to be CGI. Entertainment critics have increasingly raised similar concerns about nominally live-action productions that rely so heavily on digital effects that the distinction from animation becomes semantic rather than substantive. Reviews of the final film will almost certainly address this tension between live-action branding and CGI-heavy execution, with critics evaluating whether the production successfully integrates live and digital elements or whether it falls into an uncanny valley between formats. Specific aesthetic choices visible in the trailer generated pointed criticism that professional reviewers may echo. Several viewers commented on changes to Moana's appearance, particularly noting that her hair appeared straighter than in the animated version where her distinctive curly hair contributed to her character design. While seemingly minor, this observation touched on broader concerns about authenticity and representation, with some Pacific Islander viewers expressing disappointment that a character designed to reflect Polynesian features appeared to have been given more conventionally Western features in the transition to live action. Critical reviews will need to navigate these questions of cultural representation and authenticity, assessing whether the film honors Pacific Islander cultures appropriately or whether creative decisions undermine the original's cultural integrity. The recasting of the title role, while understandable given that Ali Kravlo has aged beyond the teenage character's age range and chose not to reprise the role to allow another Pacific Islander actress the opportunity, nonetheless generated negative reaction from some viewers who felt strong attachment to Kravlo's performance. Comments expressing disappointment that Kravlo wasn't starring in the live-action version appeared frequently, though many also acknowledged her gracious decision to step aside and support Catherine Lagaia's casting. Critics will likely evaluate Lagaia's performance independently while also considering how it compares to and diverges from Kravlo's iconic vocal performance that defined the character for millions of viewers. The timing relative to Moana 2's recent release emerged as a particular sore point in audience commentary. Disney's decision to convert what was originally planned as a Disney Plus series into the theatrical Moana 2, which released in November 2024, meant that audiences encountered new Moana content mere months before marketing began for the live-action remake. This proximity created a sense of Moana oversaturation for some viewers, who questioned why Disney was flooding the market with multiple Moana projects in such rapid succession. Professional critics evaluating the live-action version may share or reference these concerns about franchise fatigue, assessing whether audiences truly wanted or needed another Moana story so soon after the animated sequel. The comparison with previous Disney live-action remakes provides context for anticipating critical reception patterns. Recent Disney remakes have received mixed to negative critical reception despite often performing adequately at the box office, suggesting a disconnect between critic and general audience assessment. The Lion King from 2019 illustrates this pattern clearly. The film grossed over $1.6 billion worldwide, demonstrating massive commercial success, but received mixed reviews with a 52% critics score on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics praised the photorealistic visual effects while questioning whether the remake justified its existence and whether the photorealism came at the cost of the emotional expressiveness that animation afforded. Beauty and the Beast from 2017 received somewhat better critical reception with a 71% Rotten Tomatoes score, with critics appreciating Emma Watson's performance and some of the production design choices while questioning the faithfulness to the animated version and debating whether live-action treatment enhanced or detracted from specific sequences. Aladdin from 2019 landed at 57% on Rotten Tomatoes, with Will Smith's performance as Genie receiving mixed reactions and critics divided on whether the film successfully updated the story or simply offered a competent but unnecessary recreation. More recent remakes have trended toward harsher critical reception. The Little Mermaid from 2023 achieved 67% on Rotten Tomatoes, with critics praising Halle Bailey's performance while criticizing visual effects choices particularly in underwater sequences and questioning pacing and narrative decisions. The live-action Mulan from 2020, which took a radically different approach by removing the musical elements and attempting a more serious tone, received mixed reviews and became caught up in political controversy that overshadowed critical assessment. The live-action Dumbo from 2019 earned just 47% from critics who found it visually interesting but emotionally hollow. These precedents suggest that Moana will likely face critical scrutiny on several fronts. Critics will almost certainly evaluate how effectively the live-action format serves the story compared to animation, whether the remake justifies its existence through new interpretations or additions, how successfully the film balances cultural authenticity with mass appeal, whether the musical numbers translate effectively to live-action performance, how well the visual effects integrate with practical elements, and whether the performances bring new dimensions to familiar characters or simply competently recreate animated templates. The musical component will receive particular critical attention given that songs represent one of the original Moana's greatest strengths. Lin-Manuel Miranda's original songs, particularly the Oscar-nominated anthem How Far I'll Go and Maui's showstopper You're Welcome, set extraordinarily high bars for live-action recreations. Critics will evaluate Catherine Lagai's vocal performances against Ali Igravlo's beloved original interpretations, assess how the staging and choreography of musical numbers works in live-action format, and determine whether Mark Mancini's live-action score successfully captures the emotional textures of his animated work while adapting to live-action requirements. Dwayne Johnson's performance as Maui will face intense scrutiny, as he transitions from voice acting to physical embodiment of the character. Critics will evaluate whether Johnson successfully inhabits the role physically and emotionally, whether the prosthetic bodysuit enhances or undermines the performance, how effectively the visual effects support his shape-shifting sequences, and whether his musical performances maintain the charm and energy of his animated vocal work. Johnson's national charisma and proven comedic abilities provide advantages, but critics may question whether the character's larger-than-life animated personality translates convincingly to live-action or whether it feels forced or artificial in a more grounded format. The supporting cast will also receive evaluation, with critics assessing whether John Stewart, Frankie Adams, and Rena Owen bring depth and authenticity to Moana's family members. The representation of Maui village life, the establishing of community and cultural context, and the emotional foundations of Moana's relationship with her parents and grandmother will all factor into critical assessment of whether the film successfully grounds its fantastical elements in genuine human relationships and cultural specificity. Visual effects quality will be absolutely crucial to critical reception. The film's success depends on creating believable and emotionally engaging renditions of elements including the sentient ocean with personality and agency, tka Diaresis the lava demon, the Kakama or a coconut warriors, Tamatoa the giant crab, Maui's shape-shifting transformations, and the various magical and mystical elements that populate the story. If these effects achieve photorealism while maintaining personality and emotional expressiveness, critics will likely praise the technical achievement. If they fall into uncanny valley territory or appear obviously artificial, critics will hammer these shortcomings mercilessly, particularly given the film's substantial budget and Disney's reputation for effects excellence. The cinematography and visual storytelling will be evaluated for how effectively they capture both intimate character moments and spectacular action sequences. The film's dual location filming in Atlanta studios and Hawaii locations provides opportunities for authentic Pacific atmosphere and natural beauty contrasted with controlled studio work for effects-intensive sequences. Critics will assess whether Scarfor's cinematography successfully integrates these different shooting environments, whether the color palette honors the animated film's vibrant aesthetic while translating it appropriately for live action, and whether visual composition and movement serve the emotional storytelling. Cultural authenticity and representation will be examined closely, particularly given increased awareness and discourse around appropriate cultural representation in mainstream media. Disney's extensive consultation with Pacific Islander communities and cultural advisors, the predominantly Pacific Islander cast, and the involvement of figures like Dana Ledoux-Miller who brings Samoan heritage to the screenwriting will all be considered when critics assess whether the film respects and honors Polynesian cultures. Any perceived missteps, from costume and production design choices to narrative decisions to musical elements, will likely receive swift critical condemnation, while successful authentic representation will earn praise and may insulate the film from other criticisms. The screenplay by Jared Bush and Dana Ledoux-Miller will be evaluated for how it adapts the animated story to live-action format. Critics will consider whether the narrative structure works for live-action pacing, whether character development benefits from the format change or suffers from it, whether dialogue that worked in animation feels natural when spoken by live actors, and whether any additions or modifications to the original story enhance the themes or feel like unnecessary tempering. The challenge of translating a story that audiences already know while making the live-action version feel essential rather than redundant will be central to critical assessment. Thomas Kail's direction will receive scrutiny as this marks his narrative feature directorial debut despite his extensive experience directing live theatrical productions and film theater. Critics will evaluate whether his theatrical sensibilities translate effectively to narrative cinema, whether he successfully manages the balance between intimate character moments and spectacular action sequences, whether the musical staging demonstrates innovation or feels stagey, and whether he develops a coherent visual and tonal identity for the film or whether it feels like competent studio product lacking distinctive vision. The pacing and runtime will factor into reviews. If the film clocks in at a similar length to the animated original's 107 minutes, critics will evaluate whether that runtime feels appropriate for live action or whether the story would benefit from expansion. If the film runs significantly longer, critics will assess whether the additional runtime serves the story through development and depth or whether it drags and undermines the animated version's efficient storytelling. Comparison with the animated original will be unavoidable in virtually every review. Critics will debate whether the live-action version offers new insights into characters, themes, or narrative, whether it improves upon any aspect of the original, whether it achieves parity with the animated version's strengths, or whether it represents a step backward that fails to justify its existence. The relatively recent vintage of the original, still readily available and culturally prominent, will make these comparisons particularly pointed and potentially unforgiving. The broader context of Disney's live-action remake strategy will influence critical reception. By July 2026, Disney will have released numerous live-action remakes over the course of more than a decade, and critics have increasingly expressed fatigue and frustration with the strategy. Reviews of Moana will likely reference this larger pattern, questioning Disney's creative priorities and whether resources might be better deployed on original stories rather than reimaginings of recent animated successes. Even if Moana achieves quality on its own terms, it may face critical resistance simply as another example of a strategy many critics view as creatively bankrupt. The target audience consideration may create divergence between critical and audience reception. Professional critics typically evaluate films based on artistic merit, innovation, execution, and necessity. Family audiences may prioritize different factors including entertainment value, accessibility for children, visual spectacle, and emotional satisfaction. A film that critics view as unnecessary but competent might still satisfy family audiences who want an entertaining theatrical experience and new versions of beloved songs. Conversely, critical praise doesn't guarantee audience enthusiasm if the film fails to deliver the crowd-pleasing elements families expect. Rotten Tomatoes score predictions, while speculative, have appeared in various entertainment media analyses, with estimates typically falling in the range of 55 to 65% for the critics' score. These predictions suggest expectations for mixed reception leaning slightly negative, with critics appreciating certain aspects of the production while questioning its necessity and possibly finding fault with execution in key areas. Audience scores might diverge significantly higher if the film delivers satisfying family entertainment regardless of critical reservations, or they might align with or fall below critic scores if audience skepticism visible in trailer reactions translates to disappointment with the finished film. Awards consideration seems unlikely based on precedent and early indicators. While Disney's live-action remakes have occasionally received technical nominations in categories like visual effects, production design, or costume design, they have generally not been embraced by major awards bodies. The Academy Awards and other prestige organizations typically prefer original work or adaptations that significantly transform their source material rather than close remakes of recent properties. Moana might earn technical nominations if the visual effects achieve exceptional quality or if the production design demonstrates particular creativity, but broader recognition seems improbable. The critical response will ultimately be revealed in waves as a review embargo lifts closer to release, likely within a week of the July 10, 2026 theatrical debut. The embargo lift timing itself can provide signals about studio confidence, with earlier embargo lifts typically indicating confidence in positive reception, while embargoes that lift on or after release date often suggest anticipation of negative reviews. Major critics from outlets including the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, IndieWire, Rolling Stone, and others will provide in-depth analysis that shapes initial critical consensus, while aggregator sites like Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic will compile broader critical opinion into numerical scores that influence public perception. Social media era criticism adds another dimension to the critical response landscape. In addition to traditional professional critics, YouTube film critics, podcast reviewers, and social media commentators with substantial followings contribute to the broader critical conversation and can significantly influence audience perception. These alternative voices may bring different perspectives and priorities to their assessments, potentially creating multiple critical narratives around the film's quality and value. The intersection of critical response with box office performance will be closely watched. A film that receives poor critical reviews but performs well commercially would validate Disney's strategy of prioritizing audience satisfaction over critical approval. A film that receives positive reviews but underperforms financially would raise questions about whether quality alone suffices when audiences question necessity. Poor reviews combined with weak box office would represent the worst-case scenario, potentially forcing Disney to reconsider its approach to live-action remakes. Strong reviews and strong box office would provide clear validation of the project, though early indicators suggest this optimistic scenario may be less likely than alternatives. Looking beyond initial release, critical reassessment over time represents another possibility. Some films dismissed by critics upon initial release gain appreciation in subsequent years as they find audiences and reveal qualities that weren't immediately apparent. Conversely, some films that receive positive initial reception age poorly as their limitations become more evident. For Moana, the ultimate critical legacy may not be determined until years after release, when sufficient time has passed to evaluate its impact and endurance. The film will also be evaluated within the context of Dwayne Johnson's larger career and Disney's corporate trajectory. For Johnson, critical reception and commercial performance will influence his standing as a box office draw and his ability to attract premium roles and projects. For Disney, the results will inform strategic decisions about future live-action remakes, theatrical versus streaming release strategies, and resource allocation between remake projects and original development. In examining early critical response, or rather the anticipation of critical response based on available information, several conclusions emerge. The project faces significant headwinds including skepticism about necessity, concerns about timing relative to other Moana releases, questions about the meaningful distinction between live-action and heavily CGI-dependent productions, and fatigue with Disney's remake strategy. However, it also possesses strengths including a proven story with emotional resonance, a talented cast including both fresh faces and established stars, substantial resources devoted to production quality, and the involvement of key creative figures from the successful original including Miranda and Mancina. The most likely critical reception scenario involves mixed reviews acknowledging technical competence and individual moments of success while questioning whether the film justifies its existence and whether live-action treatment serves the story as effectively as animation. Critics will likely praise certain performances while finding others lacking, appreciate specific visual sequences while criticizing others, and generally conclude that while the film entertains and satisfies on a basic level, it doesn't transcend or improve upon its source material in ways that validate the remake. This mixed reception would align with patterns established by previous Disney live-action remakes and would neither doom nor guarantee the film's commercial prospects. Alternative scenarios remain possible. If the film achieves exceptional quality and execution, offers genuinely new perspectives on the story and characters, delivers outstanding musical performances, and creates visual spectacle that justifies premium theatrical presentation, critics might embrace it more warmly than precedent suggests. If it fails significantly in key areas such as visual effects quality, musical execution, or cultural representation, critics might reject it more harshly than even skeptical predictions anticipate. The ultimate critical reception will be determined by the quality of the finished film, which at the time of this writing remains in post-production with significant work still being completed. For audiences and industry observers interested in the critical response, the period between the film's release and the first few weeks thereafter will provide the most comprehensive picture of professional critical opinion. This window will see the publication of major reviews, the solidification of aggregator scores, and the emergence of critical consensus around the film's strengths, weaknesses, and ultimate value. Whether that consensus validates Disney's decision to fast-track a live-action Moana or questions the wisdom of the strategy will be revealed when critics finally see the completed film in summer 2026.